before we move on to the next phase of our next step, because it's a little more complicated to structure, but it's extremely powerful, and that's a firewall that there's many out there, just so you know. It's a built-in firewall. You can get free versions of this firewall, these firewalls, that will do not only the limited login, so you don't have to have that extra one, but let's say you just don't feel comfortable putting one on your site right now. That's fine. Make sure you at least start with what we've covered thus far. Now, the next step or tool to protect you is really having a built-in firewall, and they do a lot more. And I'm going to share a little bit about this. Now, there's different companies that provide some really outstanding, well-developed, high security. They upsell. So they'll give you the free version, but let me tell you, if you like what you're using, like WordFence, they only charge 40 bucks a year per site. So if you can't swing 40 bucks for some security, you know, then what are we doing out here today? So
hey, Mark, I'm sorry, I have one more. So one question about this firewall. This is a firewall specifically for WordPress, right? So it's a
absolutely.
Like a plugin for WordPress.
It is. It is. And as we all know, we all got our computers, so you got a built-in what's called a router. That's how we get on the internet, and they have built-in firewalls, but they're built in to do something specific to your local machine. This firewall is built inside of the WordPress installation, your particular site. So if you had more than one site, you'd have individual firewalls per site. Now, you do have a cloud version, but I don't want to get into that right now. I want to keep it something we can do today to help us be successful in protecting and shielding ourselves from the hacker. Now, let me explain why it's so powerful. With the firewall, the company that I use, this guy got hacked, kind of like I did. So he developed and he has a massive database of all the known IP addresses and countries of the world. And one of the things I started doing with my firewall is you can log into your WordPress account and monitor traffic. Okay, when somebody attempts to perform a denial of service like we just spoke about on your site, the firewall will log their IP address, which is their. Now I'll explain that some of that can be fake, but some of it can be real too. It logs it, so it keeps a log of how many times they tried to log into your site, and immediately there's rules built in to block that particular IP address for either 1 day, 12 hours, 2 hours, or 10 minutes. So it's very flexible on how you can configure it, but you do have to configure it, and you do have to pay attention to the alerts, because the idea is you need to put some effort into this. Now, if you don't want to do that, WP Backup Service, I do this, and actually I'm launching my second soft launch. I'm going to be offering WordPress monitoring services as a package. So right now, by the way, today is our soft launch of WP Backup Service core services. So if you need assistance with backing up, and that's one of the other things you want to do, and we'll get into that later, check out WPBackupService.com. Now, with that said, the firewall is very powerful because they have a lot of tools built in that's going to protect you in real time. Now, the firewall shields and stops more of the complicated attacks, and I don't want to go into too deep, but the hackers like to do what's called SQL injection. Now, WordPress is built on a PHP file platform. It also is built on a SQL database platform. They both have to be working and talking to each other for WordPress to work. Sometimes they'll try to inject that into the SQL files. Also, what the bot does when they send a bot to look at your site, Google sends bots because that's how they index our pages and put us out on the search engines. So bots in general, if they're the good guys, are doing us a favor. The hacker bots are the ones who are scanning for vulnerabilities.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So the firewall helps prevent these bots from scanning into your site.
Yes. It can. There's a separate step that I'll talk about later. I don't want to go too deep into layers of security. What we're doing today is talking about WordPress hardening, and WordPress itself recommends certain hardening steps, and that's what we're kind of discussing about today. But I'm sharing some of this stuff because I'm passionate and I want to help other business owners, but I want to tell you the quickest way to identify that you're being monitored by hackers on a regular basis. So I think, Jim, you asked me the other day, why would a hacker want to target little me, you know, the little small business person? Because if their purpose is to destroy, maim, and ruin as many sites in their target countries that they can, they don't care who you are. Now, of course, they go for
Mark,
yeah.
Give a little background about who the they are and why they, you know, what their mission is as far as, you know, hacking into small businesses and why they would even want to consider doing that.
Of course, I'm not a hacker, but you have to put your mindset close to, you know, it's kind of like studying your enemy in a war situation.
Yeah, profiling, like an FBI profiler.
Yes, so I've taken some time to study up on them. You know, right now, what I've noticed as I'm tracking packets, I can block complete countries, and that's what I've done. First of all, before you start blocking country IP addresses, you got to make sure, you know, you don't want to do business there. And any country that spends the majority of their time trying to attack my blog or our blogs and our sites is not worthy of doing business with me. I don't know what you feel like, but I don't want anything to do with them. So what happened is, by using the firewall, now I know which IP addresses and which countries are attacking me on a regular basis. I'm going to bring up a log and show you here in a minute of all the main IPs that I captured within the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 weeks. I have up to 1,000 hits from one IP address, and I can show you by using the steps that I'm sharing here today, I've reduced them down to maybe 20 to 30 in a matter of a week or two. So there's kind of an argument, or I agree to disagree. I believe that packet monitoring and blocking packets and blocking your hacker is a great approach to protecting your site, because you can identify you're watching them. See, they don't want you to watch them. They want to be covert in the background. Here you are capturing their IPs, you're blocking them, and now they're kind of, you know, they're irritated. Whatever, great. If you want to play hardball, well, I'll play right back. So here's the countries. I notice a pattern. China is the biggest offender. China has millions of IP addresses and tons of people, and I don't know what their motives is, and I don't want to get into, you know, pointing fingers at countries and people. But what I'm saying is that's where we're identifying the majority of them are coming from. Number two, the Russian Federation area of Russia, which is just a small portion, is another consistent offender on my site. Now, this is on more than one of my sites. They target all 3 of my sites. I have more, but those are the main 3 that are up. Something else is, you probably heard of the Sweden and small countries. Remember, that hit the news, and how they're hiding their IP addresses overseas. So you're going to have a list from there of a variety of countries or assumed IP address that represents a company or country that's trying to attack you. Now remember, here's the downside of this. The hackers have a style of obtaining a IP address, making it bad. Now you know it's bad, and then they'll disengage, get rid of it, and go get another one. That's a blog post. I wrote about this on my blog post on WP Backup Service, so be aware that that's happening as well.